All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I have to give a lot of credit to Mr. Kevin Durant for the candid way in which he decided to express himself in his appearance on the Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman show. He did something that very few top-flight athletes do, which is face their critics face-to-face. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Can I turn my attention to this
of
man
course,
right here? First of all, good to see you, bro. How you doing?
See you too, man.
All right. Before I get into everything with you, and we had our conversation on the Boardroom, and go check it out on ESPN Plus. You don't want to miss it. Let me get some of the news out of the way first. I got to get this as gratuitous. The Washington Nationals won the World Series last night.
Yo, Stephen A. Smith is such a cartoon character, man. He's like a Muppet.
Yeah, because I'm a New York native. I'm not a D.C. native, Kevin Durant. That's why I said it like that. I'm not happy about it, but how do you feel?
I'm ecstatic. I mean, chip back.
Yeah, you look ecstatic.
You see, I mean, we got the Caps, the Mystics, and now the Nats. Feels good.
Nobody gives a shit about the damn Mystics, Kevin Durant. Knock it off.
Glad he
First
said
time in franchise
I'm
history.
glad he answered that quickly. Let's move on from the champions and D.C. being a better town than New York City right now. Let's move on from that. Let me get to the news of the item. One other news. Steph Curry, your former teammate, goes down last night. Broken hand. You saw that? Your thoughts, what went through your mind?
I mean, luckily it wasn't anything more serious than that, you know, especially seeing Clay out for the whole season and myself, you know, out for the whole year. So sure he'll be back playing again, but it was tough to, you know, to see him, you know, just break his hand on TV. I mean, he's been doing so much, and, you know, the team is still transitioning, and it's a new group and a young group, so he's trying to do so much, and having him out is going to be tough for them to sustain. So, you know, hopefully he gets back and gets healthy.
In other words, oh well.
But I got that out the way. Let's get into you. Let me get right to it.
And if you're Golden State, you have to hold Steph Curry out for the entire season. There's no reason to bring him back.
When the hell are you coming back? Is it pop?
This season. Kevin Durant will be back this season. I don't give a damn what he says.
But you gonna come back this year?
Not right now. I'm not thinking about it, just rehabbing every day. It's a slow process, so I'm grinding.
Are you holding out hope that at some point in time in this season, assuming the Brooklyn Nets have a successful season and they're going to get to the playoffs again, or have you completely ruled out the possibility that you can return?
Yeah.
No, he's lying. No disrespect, Kevin Durant. For you to say yes, and I understand why you're saying it, that's the intelligent thing to say, is that yes, I've ruled out coming back this season in the same way that the Golden State Warriors ruled out Klay Thompson coming back this season, even before Steph Curry went down. That takes pressure off of the athlete. But at the end of the day, if the Brooklyn Nets are 10 games over 500 heading into March, you're going to come back if you can.
You're done. We won't see you at all this year in a Brooklyn Nets uniform.
No, I'm planning on it.
Go ahead.
So we had a conversation on this show yesterday about Kyrie Irving and the disconnect between the way his teammates seem to like him and the media reports on the latest is mood swings.
Well, I'm not quite sure if there's a real disconnect between the depiction in the media and his quote-unquote teammates, because the Brooklyn Nets do not know Kyrie Irving well enough yet to establish how much they like him. And according to many of his teammates or his former teammates with the Boston Celtics, they had issues with his quote-unquote mood swings as per Jackie McMullen. So I'm not going to agree with the assertion that there is a disparity between what the media says about Kyrie and what his teammates believe quite yet. And then, of course, we have the factors of Kyrie's grandfather passing away and him, of course, learning from the experience of trying to lead Boston.
Going to play together in Brooklyn. Reportedly, that's based partly not only on how the level you guys are playing, but your relationship. Can you speak to Kyrie Irving's personality and why it may be interpreted differently by the media and by his teammates?
KD, before you...
How could another person possibly speak to another person's personality? You would have to get to know the person in question to be able to ascertain exactly what their personality is. What type of silly question is that? And that's a way to marginalize Kyrie Irving. Speak about him like he's some type of test animal. Can you tell us about Kyrie Irving's personality? No, you'd have to get to know him in order for you to establish what his personality means to you.
So that Kyrie spoke last night after the game about this report. I want you to hear that sound too. So let's play that for KD.
You can continue to ask other people around me about what they think about me and continue to write about mood swings. Like, you know, human beings have mood swings. Like, you go home and you're not happy with things, or you're mad at something and you're happy. That's a mood swing. It's okay to be human. Like, I don't have to be perfect for anyone here, nor do I have to be perfect for the public. So I'm not here to dispel any perception. I'm just here to be myself.
And besides that, there's no such thing as being perfect for someone else. Everyone has their own established criteria for what they find to be a redeeming quality or a positive trait in another person. So, I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, Kyrie just has to make sure that he's leading his team appropriately.
I mean, he just spoke for himself, so I don't really have to say much. But as his teammate, I mean, there's no problems at all. Absolutely none. Comes into work every day, works hard, great teammate, talks to everybody, just having a great time. But, I mean, obviously, people hit a great thing. Kyrie's a great, great player, out of this world player. So, a lot of situations that we can't control, but he's going to keep working every day.
But do you, like, yes, he's a great player, and we like to build people up and tear them down, see if they get up again.
Yes, for sport.
But do you think that Kyrie is especially a magnet for that stuff? And if so, why? Why does it seem he gets it out of proportion?
Because you guys don't like him.
And beyond that, the reason why the media does not like Kyrie Irving, and I'm sure that KD wanted to touch on this, but he said, let me not, is because Kyrie has been placed, or he's been cast as the antithesis of LeBron James. He's been cast as the antagonist to LeBron James. And many of the members of the mainstream sports media are fanboys of LeBron, so now they focused a lot of their ire on Kyrie. That's the real reason why there's so much scrutiny on Kyrie Irving. And then on top of that, the issues with the Celtics last year.
It's simple, because he presents no problems, absolutely none.
Hold on, who are you guys? When you say you guys don't like Kyrie Irving.
Whoever says he's a problem in the locker room.
People look at Kyrie, and I totally agree with you from the standpoint, he's a great guy. I've talked to Kyrie on several occasions, damn smart dude, and he's just a different kind of cat. You know, he doesn't.
What does that even mean? He's a different kind of cat. So who are the regular cats? Are non-different or quote-unquote regular kind of cats basic dudes who just speak about what you would expect the average young so-called black male to talk about? Air Jordan sneakers and gold chains and hip-hop? Is that what a quote-unquote regular kind of cat is?
Anybody. It's ridiculous to me, these stories that have been written about him. It actually ticks me off, but I'll get into that later. When they talk about you, and they talked about Kyrie and the collaboration, you two coming together in Brooklyn, New York, one of the biggest things they talk about, matter of fact, I think it's the only thing they brought up, is the personalities that you two have. Because obviously you've been outspoken in addressing who you perceive to be your critics. He clearly has his own critics as well. And people have wondered how you guys are going to survive and prosper in New York City, playing for the Brooklyn Nets. How do you respond to that?
The main way that they're going to have to try to survive is to ball out. Ball out and let their play speak for them. Because when they go through those issues, which all teams are going to go through, losing 7 out of 10 and things of that nature, they're not going to be the best interviews in the world. There's no doubt about that.
I don't. I mean, our work shows. We come to work every day. And we've been building up who we are as basketball players since day one. And that's all it's been our focus since day one. I'm talking about as kids. So how we approach it, how we look, or what we may do during games, or how we speak to the media, it really doesn't matter, because we come to work every day as professionals. Agreed.
And at the end of the day, most viewers of basketball aficionados or fans per se don't really give a shit how athletes interact with the media. This is a media storyline that they're trying to push this narrative that the viewers of basketball should be concerned with how athletes interact with the media. The only time that it becomes a concern is if there's a correlation between how they're conducting themselves with the media and how they're interacting with their teammates.
Do you feel like there is a negative label that is attached to you guys, like people have said to you, have said about you, you're a bit too sensitive?
Yeah, like yourself.
I've spoken about that. Yeah. But for the national television audience, the people that look at Kevin Durant and say, damn it, he's a bit too sensitive. He has to respond and clap back at anybody that gets at him. What do you say to that?
Man, we're all sensitive about something. I mean, we're just humans. I mean, I'm not any different from anybody else. If I hear you saying something that I feel is not true, I'm gonna talk to you about it. That's just how it is.
Once again, the only issue that I've ever had with Kevin Durant when it comes to social media was him making up the fake accounts. You have the right as a grown man to defend yourself, and what the media attempts to do with athletes, they know that for the most part, these athletes are guarded with the media now, and with social media, they can get their own narrative out there. So what the mainstream sports media tries to do is create fake narratives about athletes to get them to respond, get into a back and forth, and that creates ratings, that generates ratings for them during very important news cycles. And they can cast the athlete as being quote-unquote sensitive if they decide to pay attention to what the media pundit is saying. So it's a game that the media plays.
In person or over Instagram. So, I mean, that's just who I am. I mean, I'm not going to change who I am because people tell me I should act different. I love basketball. I'm going to approach it the same way I always did.
And yet, human beings change over time. People mature. We saw you enter the league as a kid. From the way it seems to me, you were much less comfortable in your own skin in front of the media, let's say, as a 19-year-old than you are as in your mid-20s, in your late 20s. Do you think you've changed in that way? And if so, how?
No, I've always been the same person. It's just a matter of me expressing myself, figuring out different ways to express myself.
I'm not quite sure if I agree with that. Of course, KD knows himself better than I know him. But we all grow and evolve. And I think that he's going to allude to that at the end of his little soliloquy here. So he has changed. Your ability to evaluate the world is going to be different at 31 than it was at 20 years old or 22 years old. That's just a fact of the matter. You're going to grow in scope, and your ability to observe and assess everything that's going on around you, that's just nature. So his thoughts are going to be different, whether he wants to acknowledge that or not.
I've had these thoughts in my head, but just getting them out has been different. It's been an evolution. I feel like everybody is on that road.
What was
I agree, sir.
thoughts in your head that you didn't want to get out?
It wasn't that I didn't want to get out. It was just trying to figure out how to say it. You know, I always wanted to be authentic and true to everything I've seen. I wanted to give fans a different perspective from a player, authentic and true perspective. And sometimes that may not come out the way you like it.
Much credit to KD for acknowledging that sometimes he might have issues within himself being able to articulate his thoughts. The reason why I bring that up is because oftentimes I'll have liberal females jump into my comment section and say things like, I just want to thank you for helping me see certain things about myself. My man forwarded me to your channel and blah, blah, blah. And oftentimes I suspect that they're lying, that they don't even have a damn man in the first place. They're just saying that so that maybe I'll pay them some attention, or I'll believe that they're conforming to the overall, relationship paradigm that I state the so-called black man should be adhering to, that being that he's the head. But in all reality, even if a female were to say something like that to me and it's true, you should not be thanking me. You should be thanking your man, because your man is the person who has tolerated you for all these years. And the reason why I bring that up is because I believe that if there are brothers who forward their woman to my channel, it's because they might believe that they have issues articulating their thoughts to their woman. They listen to my channel and they believe that I have the ability to articulate their thoughts for them. So therefore they send their woman to my channel. So that's why I state even more, you should thank your man, not me, because he thought enough of you to not leave you. He thought enough of you to send you to my channel to hopefully explain to you through my voice how he's feeling about things and what he sees in you. So once again, always show that due benevolence to your man, not to me, because I'm not getting anything from you and I'm not putting up with anything from you. He is, not me.
When you came out, I felt like you bossed up and you said, you know who I am, I'm Kevin Durant. We heard that quote a ton. What did you
This broad is such a groupie.
by that?
I think people wanted me to get out of character on a basketball court and change my game. I'll never do that.
Well, I'm one of those people. And let me tell you why. I consider you to be the best in the world right now. I don't care about Kawhi and LeBron. I think you are the best in the world right now. So to me, when somebody is great of a defensive player, as for example a Patrick Beverly was, or whatever the case may be, I believe that somebody like that, somebody like you, is supposed to dominate that kind of matchup. You explained it, and you explained it very accurately, I might add. But I guess what I'm asking is, when people look at Kevin Durant, there are times where the reason why he isn't considered the best by some others is because that lack of assertiveness, that lack of aggressiveness, the dogging in the sense, the hell with this, give me the ball, let me remind you of who I am. What do you say to that?
He's playing on a team. He's playing within a system. It's not his job. It's not his job to tell Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, stop running the sets, just give me the basketball because I have Patrick Beverley on me. That's actually predictable. That's what Doc Rivers and their defense wanted him to do. That's why he was able to understand that, no, we're going to keep moving the basketball. And the fact of the matter is that in the game that Patrick Beverley really started drawing back and forth with him, Golden State was up by like 35 points and they blew the lead because they started to just get lax with their defense and with their offense. So the system was working. Now, eventually, over the course of the series, Kevin Durant did have to assert himself because Steve Kerr asked him to do so. But the initial plan was working as well.
I mean, I led my team in shots ever since I've been in the league. So, always been number one on the team in shots. It's like, but playing with Russell Westbrook, a lot of people say that I should put him in his place. Like, he's a player that you can't.
You need about 5 tranquilizer darts to put Russell Westbrook in his place.
His place. He's a big personality. He's a player that you can't tame. So like, I was just gonna support him no matter what. I think that's what a lot of people try to say, is that I wasn't assertive in putting Russell in his place. But my whole thing was to let these guys grow and be creative in their own space. You know what I mean? That's what teammates do. So I mean, always led the team in shots. Always took the late game shots. Always trusted to make all the plays. And I averaged 39 minutes a game almost my whole career. So that shows you my GMs, the coach, every single day, every game since I've been in the league.
Speaking of letting people be themselves, Draymond Green is another big personality and what have you.
Draymond Green is another female trapped in a man's body. That's what he is.
A lot was made about the altercation against the Clippers when y'all were playing, and folks even alluded to that playing somewhat of a role in you electing to walk away from Golden State and go to Brooklyn. Speak to that at all, the relationship you had with Draymond Green. Speak to whether or not that had any impact whatsoever in your decision to leave Golden State.
Yeah, I wish that wouldn't have happened. I feel like that was a situation that definitely could have been avoided. It really came out of nowhere. And
no, actually, it did not come out of nowhere, KD. And I suspect that you suspect that Draymond Green was harboring these feelings and these notions within him for a very long time. Whenever someone allows vitriol and toxicity like that to spill out, it's something that they've been harboring for a long time. That's why I state you always have to be very careful when you're gifted, when you're around people who understand how gifted you are, especially when they covet that gift, because they will seek your downfall, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. Draymond at that point was disdainful of KD because he knew that they needed him to win, but he also knew that KD wanted out. So there was no chance that there was going to be a furtherance of their quote-unquote dynasty, whether they won the championship at the end of that season or not. He knew that KD was out, and Draymond also understood the writing on the wall that a lot of the components of the Golden State Warriors were going to change as well. So that's where all that came from. And there was no coming back from something like that. I mean, give me a break.
For us, everybody was just looking for something to tear us down with, and I think they used that, and that just...
Well, I agree with you that everyone was looking for something to tear you down with. To say that they just used that, no, Draymond Green provided that because he's an agent of chaos. He's been an extreme agent of chaos for his own team over the last 5 years. I mean, it's really amazing that one player can help his team as much as he does and hurt his team as much as he has.
But in the firestorm from, free agency to every day it was about my free agency. Every day it was about my disposition as a player, what I look like on the bench, what I look like, during the game. So it opened up a lot of nonsense, I think that could have been avoided. And me and Draymond talked about it.
But what I will say is this. I don't know if nonsense is the word that you can use if you listen to what Draymond said a couple of weeks ago on Adrian Wojnarowski's podcast, where he talked about how Steve Kerr, Bob Myers came to him saying that he needed to apologize to you for how he came at you. He said he refused at that particular moment in time because that's just not how he felt.
No, he was still acting like a bitch. Draymond Green was calling Kevin Durant a bitch, but he was really projecting because he was in his feelings over probably some information that he received stating that Kevin Durant was heading to New York. So he was the one who was in his bitch feelings, and he just projected that on Durant. Either way, I knew that something was going to happen between the two of them because I did videos on it stating that Golden State's two mama's boys were going to eventually implode in some way. So it was not a surprise when it occurred.
Till he looked into your eyes and saw that his brother was hurt by what he said. Were you hurt? How exactly was it that you felt at that time when everything went down?
When I say nonsense, I mean other people trying to jump in on a story and create something off of it when they don't really know all the facts.
Got it.
And I think that was annoying for everybody on the team. But Draymond knew that he was out of line. And as men, we talked about it. And everybody around tried to get us to, mend it fast because of the season. And we wanted to win. But, he had this process on how he wanted to handle things. And I respected that. And I had my process. And eventually we came together.
Last question on this subject, just to be clear, because I don't recall the answer to this question. Did that play a role in you leaving Golden State?
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
Good for you for being honest about that, man.
You want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, your teammate talked to you that way. You think about it a bit, but
Of course, there are certain things that a person can say to you in any form of a relationship, whether it's you and your significant other, you and your homeboy, you and a family member, you and a colleague at work, where it's going to take a major repair for it to ever even come close to being like what it was before that incident occurred or before that person said what he said. Because we all know there are certain things that you can say when you're trying to go thermonuclear on a relationship where things are never going to be the same after that. And it's up to you whether or not you want to use your tongue for destruction or utilize prudence and discretion.
Like I said, we talked about it, but definitely, for sure, I'm not going to lie about it.
Katie, why do you ultimately decide to leave? I
just felt like I needed a switch. I felt like a lot of stuff in Golden State had reared its head, and I felt like that was just going to be the end no matter what.
Also, let's understand that Kevin Durant saw LeBron James go to LA, so he understood, this is just my view of it, he understood that it would be in his best business interest to go to New York. And possibly both he and LeBron could go into the latter stages of their career, establishing a bi-coastal rivalry with LeBron in LA, KD in New York, KD and Kyrie, formerly LeBron and Kyrie. So there are going to be a lot of connections there, assuming that the Brooklyn Nets can one day make it to the finals to potentially match up against the Lakers. But as Stephen A. Smith would say, let's be very, very clear. LeBron James is always on Kevin Durant's mind, whether he wants to admit it or not, because he wants to repeatedly slay that dragon.
Especially for that group. Sean Livingston was retiring, Andre Iguodala was getting older. Our contracts were going to stifle the team and put us in the hole to get other players. So it was just it was time for all of us to kind of separate.
So you've been criticized a lot, including by Stephen A. at first, and also I've talked about a lot the fact that once you joined Golden State, that team is a juggernaut. That team was a 73-win team without you. They didn't need KD to be invincible.
Well, here's the issue with that. Number one, you guys in the media seem to have an issue deciding whether or not the Golden State Warriors needed Kevin Durant or they didn't need him, because according to you, Golden State had to sign Kevin Durant in order to offset LeBron James. But then according to you, when you want to change the narrative to fit whatever topic you're talking about that day, Golden State did not need Kevin Durant because they were already unbeatable. But the issue with that, of course, is that they got beat in 2016. So you guys in the media just wanted to go back and forth with Kevin Durant and about Kevin Durant because, once again, he represented a threat to the focus of your affections, that being LeBron James. So everything always revolves around LeBron. When you want to find out why the media is picking on a certain basketball player, it's normally because they view him as a rival of LeBron James.
Higher than you, they still would have been invincible with you. It gets ridiculous. So the 2 championships and the MVPs and everything, yeah, but how could they lose? Was going to Brooklyn at all related to that? Like, let me go somewhere to show what I can do to a team that doesn't have championship aspiration.
As I've already stated, one of the reasons why KD, in my view, just from my perspective, why he decided to go to Brooklyn is because he wanted to establish a bi-coastal rivalry with LeBron, and also he was following behind his master in Luciferianism and in Hermeticism, Kyrie Irving, because there's no doubt in my mind that Kyrie Irving is the master and KD is the apprentice in Hermeticism / Luciferianism.
No, I told you what my name was and who I am before. You've seen what I've done. I don't have to prove to you that I can win the way you want me to.
What about you? What about yourself? Prove to yourself.
My job is to perfect my craft. That's what I do every single day, with or without championships.
But isn't your part of your craft, it's not a one-on-one sport. It's a team sport. Isn't part of your craft at your level, when you're being compared to LeBron James and Larry Bird and the best who ever played the position in game, etc., isn't part of it leading a group of guys to be more than the sum of their parts?
That's going to be an organic offshoot of him putting his best foot forward every day. He can't worry about shit like that. It's going to be what it's going to be.
In this game, my whole life, I've mastered the team game. I've been in every situation, so I got a lot of experience. So no matter what's thrown at me at this point, from all angles, from a leadership standpoint, just a player, from a defensive standpoint, offensive standpoint, I know how to do everything.
Can I get in here real quick? I have one question. Because we talked about this a lot on the show. I was convinced you were going to the Knicks. You chose the Nets. Obviously, any team would have wanted you. Why did you choose Brooklyn when you had all the other suitors?
Well, I just think I was going to the Knicks.
Why?
That's what I said.
No, nobody said.
Normal female thought process. She was trying to project her own delusions as reality.
I think to me it was just a pure gut feeling. I think I was hoping you were going to Knicks, to be honest with you. I'm just happy we got you on the East Coast.
I'm just saying,
You made the right choice.
Did you even consider the Knicks, KD?
I mean, I talked about this plenty.
He considered the Knicks. He was going to follow Kyrie either to the Knicks or to the Nets. Wherever Kyrie went is where KD was going to go.
You know,
I need to hear it again.
I think, the Nets was a team that I've been kind of looking at for the last few years, just as an up-and-coming franchise, and to have an opportunity to be a free agent when they were at this point of, seeing some growth within the franchise. I thought it was a great opportunity to combine and partner.
I don't know, switching back to the Warriors just for one last second, I don't know how accurate this is. I do know that I was told this. You didn't have any bad relationships with anybody. As a matter of fact, you had a lot of good relationships.
Yeah.
But there were people that felt that Steve Kerr should have had a bigger impact on your career than he did.
Impact in regards to what? Meaning that Kevin Durant should have decided to stay in Golden State, or that should have been one of the factors that should have made him want to stay in Golden State, that he was being coached by Steve Kerr? I think Kevin Durant met Steve Kerr and started to see through a lot of the bullshit. Of course, he's not going to say that on camera or on television, but Steve Kerr is another super liberal Caucasian. He's someone who's all fluff. He's all smoke. I mean, a lot of it's just nonsense. And I think that KD, after a while, started to see through that. I believe he also started to see through the vanilla aspect of their system. Kerr right now should be evaluated on whether or not he's able to get this skeleton crew of a team that he currently has commandeered into some form of respectability. That's why this is going to be a great year to establish exactly how good a coach Steve Kerr is. Even with Steph Curry out now, they still have Draymond Green. Can they at least get to 30 wins? That should be the test for Steve Kerr, because we spent the last 4 or 5 years looking at Steve Kerr and comparing him to Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. Well, what Greg Popovich was able to do was constantly change his system according to his personnel and also according to what was going on in the NBA at that time. Phil Jackson kind of sort of got ran out of the league when it started to become revealed that his time period came to an end. But he was also a master of timing. He knew that Kobe Bryant's reign as a great player or a championship level player was coming to an end. So he exited stage left. And the Dallas Mavericks that swept the Lakers in 2011, they pretty much established the style of play that we're seeing in the NBA today.
Y'all wasn't necessarily vibing per se. What level of accuracy do you attach to that?
I mean, he was the coach and I was a player. I mean, it wasn't anything bad. I came to work every day just like he did. And
in other words, you wasn't feeling him.
I wouldn't say we had a tight relationship or a bad one. I just came to work, went home just like he did.
So you get to the finals, you have what they were describing as a calf injury, but as we were talking about at the time, calf bones connected to the, like this stuff is all, you believe the
Calf
injury?
bone?
I'm joking.
Oh.
KD's a calf bone?
If the injury is connected to the original injury, in other words, you hurt your calf, then you have a more serious injury, but those two places are right there. Do you believe those injuries were connected?
I'm sure they. I mean, I'm not a doctor, man. I don't know the exact anatomy, but I mean, I'm sure it had to play a part in it. And I mean, I just try to move on as fast as I can and get to the right people to get me help.
Just from that footage right there, when you see KD grab the part of his lower right leg that he grabbed, I never thought that it was a calf. I never thought that it was a calf injury, just from looking at where he grabbed. Just very strange. I mean, I'm not saying that it was not initially a calf injury, but where he grabbed was always very suspect to me.
The real question, as you reflect, do you regret deciding to play in Game 5 of the NBA Finals?
I want to say regret. I do think I wish I would have made a different decision. I mean, obviously right now I can say that, but at the moment, like, I was really excited to play.
Was there, or can you describe the atmosphere around the Warriors, front office, coaching staff, teammates, what the expectations of you were? Did you feel pressure to play?
Not at all. I mean, it was, like I told somebody before, me and Rick Celebrini, every day it was just him and I just working, building. You know, it was more than just rehab with him and I. It was a tight relationship that I formed with him through that time. So that was it wasn't nobody else in my ear. None of my teammates said anything to me, the ownership. I'm sure, I mean, I'm one of the best players on the team, and we're losing in the finals. Of course, in the back of everybody's mind is wondering when I'm going to come back to play, but nobody said that to me.
Was there anyone who came to you and said, listen, this is what's at stake, you know, medical staff or otherwise, if this thing snaps, you know, there's a chance you could never be the same player, there's a lot at stake that way?
No.
There's no way in the world that they were ever going to say that. That's why Joe Lacob spent most of the playoffs talking about how Kevin Durant was going to be back before the end of the finals. So even if they saw something, they were not going to say something. As long as they had enough what they call plausible deniability to act as if they did not know the full scope of what the potentialities could be if he went back out there and played, they were not going to say anything.
No, I mean, we didn't even think about that before the game. You know, that was, I mean, if Achilles was even in the question, that might even strain it. I wouldn't even have played, but that wasn't even the question, man. It really was a freak accident.
Here's what I think I'd like to say to you. I consider you the best in the world, like I said. You have some people that...
Well, you consider the Kevin Durant that we saw before the Achilles tear the best in the world. We don't know what he's going to be when he comes back. I suspect that it's going to be relatively indistinguishable. At least that's what I'm hoping, but you never know.
About MJ, they think about Kobe. Obviously, you draw comparisons to people like LeBron, et cetera, et cetera. When they talk about Kevin Durant, they say, when they hear you say, playing the right way, just doing the right things, it's almost as if there's this refusal to accept the fact that because you're that great, more is going to be expected of you. Did you feel pressure from the outside? I'm not talking about the Warriors. I'm talking about fans. People looking at it and say, wait, find a way, man, this is finals championship on the line. You got to do this, and that's the reason that you elected to play in the finals?
No, I really wanted to be in the finals. I've seen that.
And what type of great competitor and phenomenal athlete would need pressure from the fans to decide that he was going to play in the finals? And what type of great athlete would listen to the fans? I mean, give me a break. The fans are who they are. They serve a purpose, but you don't listen to them.
This could definitely help the team and flip the series. And I knew that I could help guard Pascal Siakam or Kawhi Leonard, and I can provide spacing for Steph Curry and Clay and Draymond. I was thinking that. I wasn't thinking about.
And he sure did. In that Game 5, they looked dominant offensively with him out there. Like that was truly unbelievable. I liken them to three of the best snipers in the world who were strategically placed, even against an army that had a strong infantry. They still were going to be extremely effective in picking off their opponents. I mean, that's what they were doing against the Toronto Raptors, a team that had historically great defensive personnel out there on the floor. I mean, when you look at Pascal Siakam, Kawhi Leonard, Gasol, Marc Gasol, these are guys who are going to make all defensive teams, or have previously in their career, or have won Defensive Player of the Year awards. and Golden State was out there with KD just destroying them.
What I can prove to anybody. It was really, I wanted to go out there and help the team from a strategic standpoint.
A third championship would have tied LeBron James for as many titles as he had in his career. Did you think?
Well, a third championship would have allowed the Golden State Warriors to become the first team to three-peat since the early 2000s Lakers. That's truly where his mind should have been at, not thinking about LeBron James.
I don't know.
No, I mean, the second the buzzer sounds and you win the championship, I really was thinking about that. That's such an amazing feeling. The whole organization, everybody's families and friends are on the floor celebrating. I thought about that. Maybe I shouldn't have thought about that, because we were down 3-1. But I was really excited to share that moment again with the organization, but it didn't go that way.
When I look at the landscape for you right now in Brooklyn, in this city hasn't had a championship in decades and decades and decades, but it's basketball obsessed. Yeah. You coming off the injury, you with criticism, you joined this super team. Are you looking at Brooklyn as an opportunity to do the biggest thing you've yet done in basketball, or is it just another day at the office? I just want to play.
Honestly, I would love to see the Brooklyn Nets square off against the Houston Rockets in the finals. I think that would be a phenomenal matchup with a lot of storylines, and one team would, of course, be forced to win the championship, thus changing the overall basketball narrative for a couple of players. If the Rockets were to win, all of a sudden James Harden and Russell Westbrook, they become known as winners. If the Brooklyn Nets win, suddenly Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, the narrative about them changes automatically as well. Kyrie is no longer the player who rode LeBron's coattails. Kevin Durant is no longer the player who rode Golden State's coattails. That would be my dream matchup in the finals. I don't think that it's going to happen. I don't think either team is going to make the finals, but I would like to see that storyline play out.
It's the second one.
Yeah, second one.
Let me transition, because it's important to me, while you're sitting up here on this show, to make sure that we relay to you the kind of things that people say about you.
Who gives a damn?
Again, they recognize your greatness, but they also, and people in Golden State have even said this, and I know that for a fact because they told me, you have folks that look at you in Oklahoma City, and you go to State. Now you're going to Brooklyn. Kevin Durant is trying to find his comfort zone. He's trying to find a place where he can just genuinely be happy and received in the fashion that he thinks he deserves. This guy, like Kyrie Irving to a lesser degree, doesn't look nearly as happy as he should because he's highly paid, he's recognized one of the greatest ever, etc., etc. These are the kind of things they're saying about Kevin Durant. How do you respond to that, to those out there who say and believe these kind of things about you?
Kiss my ass. That's how you should respond. At the end of the day, you cannot be concerned about what other people think about your facial expression. It always amazes me. We live in this world today where you have females who get on TV and they state that they're tired of men walking past them in the street and telling them to smile. And yet we're always telling, especially so-called black men, what type of facial expression they should have on their face. You have no idea what they're going through. You have no idea what they're thinking at the moment. You have no idea how their facial expression looks when they have no emotion whatsoever. As long as they're not bothering anyone, leave them alone. It's okay. And at the end of the day, happiness is not a state of being. It's just something that passes over you and leaves. So, it is what it is. It's not that big a deal.
Me and my family have been moving around since we were young. We moved from neighborhood to neighborhood. So I feel like the world is my playground. I'm comfortable anywhere.
Are you the best player in the world?
Not right now. Brother's hobbled.
Durant believe he's the best in the world.
I don't even look at stuff like that no more, man.
When did you stop?
A few years back.
Why?
Because I respect all these players. I'm not trying to be better than anyone. I'm just trying to be the best version of myself.
That's how you're supposed to be, and you can never win that comparative battle. When you start living your life comparatively, that's the road to perdition. That's the road to depression.
Your point of view seems to be, from what you've said today and listening to you through the years, that it's kind of lunch pail. Like you go to work trying to be the best, like you just said, best version of yourself. But the boardroom and these kind of like media companies that athletes are now taking charge of, Derek Jeter, LeBron James, you, media is about telling stories. what is the story of KD that we're going to learn through, for example, a program like the Boardroom? Is it just the work ethic, put your head down and go? Is there more to it?
Well, the Boardroom isn't just about me. It's about the information that we exchange. Me and him had a nice conversation. We had football players and rappers and women's and WNBA players just talking about a lot of different topics. It's not just about me, and I'm not on every episode, so I'm the force behind it. We had an idea that we wanted to, we wanted to come out with, but I'm not trying to take over anything. It's just about having my little space over here. We producing some content that people may like. If you like it, cool. If you don't, I'm sure there's other things you can get into, but we're just trying to, spread some knowledge.
What's the ultimate objective? And I ask that question only from the standpoint that we see you and a plethora of other athletes trying to extend their voice.
Yeah.
And obviously listening to you go at the media on several occasions. Clearly there's some question marks that you have about the media and their willingness to tell what you believe or know to be true.
Stephen A. Smith, we all know that the truth does not necessarily sell newspapers or get clicks on your website, so you do have to create a back and forth. You just did that the other day with Steph Curry when he made a statement that clearly was a blanket statement that you thought, or for the sake of your segment, you made it apply to yourself. So storytelling is not necessarily about the truth, especially in modern day media.
Tell me about the Boardroom from the perspective of really trying to make inroads in that regard, trying to help give players a voice, essentially.
I feel like I've learned that athletes are more comfortable around other athletes, and I want to just give them a space to talk about the things outside of the game that they're interested in, and I want to know about it as well. It's cool to see what Victor Oladipo is doing outside of the game. It's cool to understand how basketball ties in with the rap music and other sports, and how big our game is growing into. So it's stuff that I'm interested in, and I wanted to learn as well, and I'm sure there's other people like me out here.
I'm going to turn to you and the basketball analyst for a quick second. I want to know your top 5 players in the NBA right now. Give them to me.
Top 5 players.
You talk too much about basketball to act like you don't know now.
You know what's so interesting? Everyone has made a big deal about the portion of this interview where Kevin Durant started to speak about Draymond Green, but no one has said anything about this. Watch what Kevin Durant does. He names his top 5 or however many players, and pay attention to who he leaves out.
I'm
going to give you the 5 players I like in the league. Obviously, Kyrie, LeBron, James Harden, Joel Embiid. I'm missing a lot of guys I enjoy, but Damian Lillard probably the last guy.
Name 5 dudes that not named Steph Curry. So I'm surprised that this has not made more of a splash that he left out Steph Curry. And, I'll give Kevin a break and say that maybe he was absent-minded. Stephen A. Smith kind of asked him off the cuff. But he did play with the cat for 3 years. And at the end of the day, Steph Curry royally scraped Damian Lillard in their head-to-head matchup in last year's Western Conference Finals. So for him to leave Steph Curry off of that list is kind of telling that they were not anywhere near as copacetic or cool as one might be made to think. And I do believe that there are going to be some stories that come out about their relationship over the course of the next few years, because as most of us remember, a couple of years ago after the finals, David West alluded to a lot of rivalries and a lot of problems in the locker room that no one knew about.
I mean, so many great players to name just 5, but all of those guys, I just enjoy watching them play.
What is your aspiration for the rest of your career? Like, when it's over, what would you like to have done?
Most likely to have known that he gave 100% and let the chips fall where they may. That's all a man can do.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really look at it that way. It's just keep grinding every single day and see what happens. I can't.
Simple as that.
Anything. This life is unpredictable. I've tried to plan things before, it didn't go that way. So I just try to just live every day and see what happens.
Last question.
Okay, real quick. Are you saying that's because I imagine someone is, to get to where you are, you have to be insanely competitive, not just talented. You have to work hard, be very competitive. Are you saying that it's not like, hey, I want to be the greatest ever because that's not up to me? You guys are going to decide that anyway? Or are you saying it truly doesn't matter to you as long as you get the best of your ability?
I'm saying it's just good for my mental health every day. Not focused.
I hope that many of you brothers heard that, because I mentioned that concept or that aspect of the so-called black man's existence, especially in this society here. And of course, I'm not comparing what we go through every day with the question that was asked to KD by Max Kellerman. But what should always be at the foremost of your mind, or the forefront of your mind, I should say, is your mental health, what we call a peace of mind. The mental placidity that we need to be functional individuals, man, that is so important. When people or things are in your life or surrounding your life that are not as invested in maintaining your peace of mind as you are, they have to be removed. It doesn't matter whether they're hypothetical questions or your significant other or the workplace that you're at. If those things are not conducive to producing a functional and a positive element or atmosphere within your mind, you have to change those things, man. So kudos to Kevin Durant for understanding. Why worry about trying to conform to hypothetical notions that you're never going to be able to verify at the end of your career anyway? When Kevin Durant retires, of course he's going to think that he's better than Larry Bird and LeBron. But you're going to have people who tell him no, he's not. So why concern yourself with that?
If I can't control.
Championships are good for your health too, right?
It's all right. It does a little part. It plays a little part for sure.
You win when you bring one to Brooklyn?
We'll see, man. We'll see.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having
You're
me.
our neighbor now, so you can come
All right.
anytime. You're right
Thanks,
across the bridge,
Yeah.
JD. We hope to see you back on the court soon,
Appreciate that.
honestly.
Good luck.
And here's another taste of the exclusive content you can see on the Boardroom.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things go with Mr. Kevin Durant over the course of this season. I do believe that he is going to come back before the end of this year, especially if the Brooklyn Nets are relatively competitive and are challenging for a playoff spot. So peace.